Another Olympia day here in Olympia. I mean that by just the scenery is very classic for most of the days here. And every day is a new day. One thing I'd like to talk about today is another predictable thing that I would call annoyingly predictable. And that's the algorithm. That's the algorithm of YouTube. It's very interesting. It's not just YouTube. I've also noticed it with Instagram and Facebook. Whatever algorithm they use, it's predictable that if you haven't posted a video in a long time, or a post even, whatever you post, no matter what it is, will be sent to more people than it ordinarily does for you. And then if you suddenly decide to post the next day, it'll get like 2 views. That's how it's been going with this series I've been doing. Like, this video will probably only get 2 or 3 views tops. Whereas my first one that I said, I'm gonna start talking about stuff, and I'm dropping my phone, and like, I don't even have a phone holder yet, and I'm kind of all over the place with topics. That one gets like hundreds of views, right? And then the ones where I start to delve into things a little more, and there's a little more meat on the bone, so to speak, there's like no views. It doesn't get even really a chance. I don't know how much it gets shown to people, but there's definitely something amiss there. And I've noticed it with lots of things. And it's strange because I have conversations with my friends about these kind of things, and I'll have people come to me to have conversations about these things. So it's not like I'm like that boring. At least I don't think I'm that boring. Of course, there's going to be someone out there that is definitely bored by all this information and not into it, doesn't care. I get it. I have stuff like that with other things. Other things like sports. Sorry, I'm like, I don't get, I just don't know how to get fanatical about that, like, about the whole team thing when I have nothing I can do about it. Like, I don't know how to base worth on something I can't, well, it's more than worth, but like, I don't know. I don't get it. But it's interesting because it's not realistic with how reality is. And, yeah, so I don't know how many other creative people there are like me who are trying to start conversations and put things out there. And the word that comes to mind for me is engagement. Like, that's one thing I want, engagement. I want people to comment, talk about things, be like, well, my experience is different because I went through this, or like, this is just how I feel about it. I like that kind of stuff. I like different stories too. Stories are fascinating to me, anecdotes. But there are some YouTubers, some influencers or whatever that, it just takes off for whatever reason. And a lot of those, and I don't mean to like knock anyone else really, but I don't find a lot of them that interesting. I guess I just have a niche kind of different topics that really resonate with me that don't really resonate with a lot of people. So I'm kind of in my own thing over here. I have friends in my immediate, like in real life. You don't want to call this real life. A lot of people don't. So I'm thankful there, but I want to reach outside of my immediate community. I want to like find other people I wouldn't ordinarily talk to, and the internet is great for that, or the internet could be great for that, but it's not working for me. It's almost like it hasn't been working for me, I'll say it that way. Anything could change at any time. It just is kind of discouraging when you're trying to put stuff out there and there's all this technology, and it doesn't work. And it's like, to me, the topics I talk about are very interesting. It's ontology. It's the nature of being. It's the study of what we are, of who we are. And it's not like you have to believe anything, but it's interesting to study. It's fascinating. Biology was the first thing that really, really stood out to me, because I was like, whatever we are some advanced technology. It's what I think about the AI stuff, is I'm like, I don't know what to think about all the AI stuff. But for all we know, we are just where technology, and we could just be a very advanced form of technology that's a bio kind of thing. I don't understand enough about molecular biology or whatever to really say anything salient on the matter. But it's a possibility. Yeah, it's just unfortunate. It's so hard to put my videos out there. It just feels so scammy. Like, you have to pay, and then I paid, and I'm like, are these just bots interacting with me? Like, how can you know? Like, I don't, because I'm so different from a lot of normies or just a lot of people, that I'm like, I get a lot of responses, or I understand a lot of responses, but then others are just like, is this even a person? Is this just a bot? I don't know. Do you guys ever wonder that stuff? It's a very weird world we live in. Very strange here. At least for me, it's very strange. It's strange to me how different I am, and strange to me also how different everyone else is from me. I actually don't feel strange about myself. I feel normal to myself, and other people are, it's like, there's a lot of human things I can relate with, but psychological things, I am just very different from a lot of people. I'm like, the amount of difference of, think of the percentage of all your friends you know who eat breakfast. I don't know if your life is any different than mine, which I'm sure it is to some degree. I only know a couple people who eat breakfasts. And that's out of, I have about like 5 or 6 really close friends that I stay in contact with pretty good. But I have a couple hundred acquaintances and kind of friends I haven't really stayed connected with. And of the people I've talked to and known, I would say 80 or 90% don't really eat any breakfast. You know, they might have, I don't know, I guess I just wouldn't consider a muffin or a pastry necessarily a breakfast. You know, you could argue that, and, you know, a breakfast is like all the nutrients that you need, like a good breakfast, like eggs and toast. That's my MO for breakfast. But yeah, it's like there's people on the internet talking about just very ordinary things, getting thousands of views, and I don't know, maybe I need to talk about more ordinary things. I'm really curious how the algorithm works, but it almost feels like, even if it's not the algorithm, it feels like there's some force in my life, some non-corporeal force, some invisible force that is just blocking me from, like, it's like I'm quarantined in some way. Like, I can get out there, but will I ever get out there at the right place and time for things to magically snowball into the kind of community I'm trying to build? Or maybe it's just the right time it's happening, but I have a hard time with the ambiguity and the just not knowing. I'm not really into that, like, whole faith thing, or just like, it's all gonna be alright. I'm like, it's not really been alright here in this world for a long time. And I think it's important to acknowledge that truth. It'd be one thing if it was like a Grand Theft Auto realm and no one really got hurt. It was just kind of for funsies. And if that's what you were into, like the mayhem and just totally being inhumane, not as bad. But where people really hurt and get really traumatized, that changes their whole life, that's indicative that the pain is too much. It's too much. It should not be, whatever's going on here, it's not good. It's like a simulation that even if there are entities in charge of it, they are, there we go. This feather is half in the video the whole time, which is maybe distracting. But what was I saying? I don't know. It seems like it's on automatic. It's kind of just things and updates and new days or whatever and new experiences are kind of just on some automated system. That doesn't actually match up and add up with our potential and the novelty of a new day and an experience that could be the catalyst for some incredible revolutionary thing in the world, something that could change the world. You know what I mean? No, it's all just kind of flat and mediocre as fuck here. It's great for some people. Some people get a smooth one. And I have some days that are a smooth one for the most part. And I'm very thankful for those. Not that I'm trying to have every day be a smooth day, but I need more of them to be smooth days. And throughout my entire life, before substances even entered my life, before I was even had any kind of traumatizing stuff, it's always just been a default level, just kind of low energy, not what I would choose. Not what I would consent to, not what I would sign the waiver for. And so what I'm getting to is this is kind of a scam world. This is, the older I get, the more I'm but also I embrace skepticism and I'm a skeptic. So that ties into that, which means I'm also, part of being a skeptic is I'm not this is the truth, this is what it is, but I'm to empirical evidence. I was looking up the definitions to really distinguish empirical from empirical. Very different. Empirical is the primacy of the felt presence of immediate experience. What we experience is the most real thing we know and that we can speak to. Something that's happening across the world or on the news, and yeah, it's probably happening, but do we really know? And is it stupid to some people to doubt that and think this way? Probably. But it's kind of the world I live in. I'm I don't know, a lot of that stuff, a lot of other people don't resonate with me, and a lot of other people don't resonate with a lot of other people. There's just such a divide, and if we could perceive more and understand more, we would have more free will. Meaning, if you're a blind person and you're just walking through the woods, you don't really know, unless you have incredible bat hearing, you don't really know, you can't really see all the paths or some vista outlook. And maybe if you could, you would choose to go to that. But it's when you're blind or just have a little flashlight, you can just see small things right in front of you, and it's hard to perceive the big picture. And I have a problem with that. I want to be in the moment, but I also want to be able to see the big picture at a glance and appreciate the grandeur and all the potential and the possibilities. Because that's uplifting. That's reviving for my spirit. And I think it would be for a lot of people. But it's so limited here. It's like a scam world. It's some kind of matrix you get stuck in to learn some kind of lessons. And I'm I don't consent to that. That is interference on my sentience. And it's interference in such a way where there's disturbances here from what I'm trying to focus on. There's disruptions get disturbed and disrupted easily, distracted easily, forgetful easily. It's not the kind of disposition I want to have. And a lot of our disposition with the world is not a great one, and it checks out because it's not a very healthy world, and I think many of us can agree with that. If we do get a lot of good days, I acknowledge the good and the bad, but it's not at a ratio that I would consent to. What keeps me here and what is worthwhile for me being here is the other people in my life. And I'm all about community and people and music and art. Imagination is the new frontier. I heard Terrence McKenna say that. I'm a big Terrence McKenna fan, by the way. He's a literate genius and has such elegant elaborations on things. He's a wordsmith. He is a language producing machine. But yeah, with that said, and it actually felt good to say all that. It feels good to just admit your truth and admit just the limitation that we live in, and we're doing the best to work with what we can, and it's not easy, and it takes way longer than it seems like it should to achieve goals and just feel a general sense of well-being. I know so many people going through such horrible health struggles and work struggles and just life struggles, and I'm not against struggle, but I'm like, I want it to be a more engaging, fun challenge. I am into challenges, but it's like after your heart's been murdered multiple times, I know that sounds a little dramatic, but it is kind of like that. It's like after you've had your heart just torn asunder, it's kind of like a death, a little bit. And when I think about that, I think about it helps bring me back into the ethos of universal compassion. But if this is a life school here, I am not coming back. I'm not gonna. I don't know if there's reincarnation. It would check out if this was some type of a weird soul trap, but it feels kind of like that, but kind of like a school, but a really shitty school where the teachers are not good, and like the teachers actually need to learn. The teachers need to go back to school. Whoever the teachers, the guides, or whatever. Maybe there's some that are better than others, but they're just like people like any of us. Like when I think of aliens and stuff, I'm like, you know, there's all the woo-woo of like the unknown and what we don't know. It's like when science started like proliferating and we start understanding that more, and like the dawn of all that. You know, at the beginning, people are like, it's witchcraft. It's just magic because they don't understand it. But other species and aliens or whatever you want to call them are just probably different embodiments of people like us. Just people. Just souls. Just, and maybe it's more, and there's probably a sense of profundancy that's even more than that. But suffice to say, if we could have more choice in our lives and the narrative here, we could be more engaged as the protagonists of our lives. But things go amiss so much that it's like it really is like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. And I have a really hard time accepting that. There's a lot of things in this life that I have a hard time accepting. And there's some things that I deliberately choose to not accept. It's unacceptable. It's okay to have unacceptable things for your own personal integrity and morale. And a lot of those things I am resolute about my non-tolerance of, my non-acceptance of. And alright, I'll use some examples so you aren't too lost in the clouds here. But, you know, things like rape and people getting exploited and unfairness. If we had more of a rundown on what we knew this was all about and the game, and there wasn't so much fear of the unknown and ambiguity, it would probably be more acceptable if we knew our lives outside this and knew that this was, you know, not just everything and that this is it. And because that is a very despairing kind of realization to have. That's why I do believe in the supernatural, and I know there's more to us. Just because science can't explain it, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And it doesn't mean it's just undiscovered science, like the science of our souls, the science of consciousness. And these are the things I think we should be talking about, personally. These should be hot topics, hot takes. And it's just baffling to me that people aren't more into it. It's like people are so subdued by life that they don't even have the psychic energy to really spend any time thinking about that. For me, it's kind of like, whether I choose to or not, I just end up always thinking about it. Well, I think that's enough for this video, and I'd love to hear people's thoughts and pontifications and all these different existential, ontological topics. And yeah, I love the nuanced viewpoint, so bring it on.